We have several news items regarding the Ottawa Senators today. We have a big signing with youngster Ridley Greig. We also have a fine for Nick Cousins, and the injuries continue to pile up. Latest to the IR list will be Noah Gregor. We'll review the injuries, the signings, the recalls, and more coming up next. Welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. We decided to do a dedicated video to some Sens news here today because we have a lot of it, and there's just a lot of things kind of been piling up here for the Ottawa Senators, who not long ago were holding down a wild card spot pretty securely, but now a good chunk, if not almost all of the bottom part of the Eastern Conference has caught up to them, and they've suddenly found themselves now a little bit behind the eight ball. They still have games in hand, so it's not a complete wash. If you look at, goal differential and you look at winning percentage, they're still right there. But they've got work to do and they need to make some corrections in a hurry. But let's start this video off with a little bit of positive news before we go over the piling up of not so good news and how they're going to have to react to it. We get news today that the Ottawa Senators have come to terms on a 4-year contract extension with youngster Ridley Greig. Of course, it wasn't long ago that Ridley Greig was one of 3 first-round picks for the Ottawa Senators. Of course, that came in the 2020 draft behind Timmy Stützle and Jake Sanderson. That turned out to be a heck of a draft for Ottawa. 3 first-round picks. They nailed all of them. All of them have worked out to be really good players for them. They got themselves a top-line center, a top-pair defenseman, and then they've got themselves Greig, who's at this point what you'd refer to as a middle six center / winger. He can, naturally he's a center, but he has had to play wing because they have a lot of center depth when everybody's healthy. Obviously Stützle, Norris, and Pinto typically have been their 3 centers, and Ridley Greig occasionally will play 4th line center, but typically he's on the wing in the top 3 lines. He's a very versatile kind of player. Now, his average annual value on the second contract is $3.25 million. I personally think this is a great deal for the Sens. Greig is somebody who we know can be a consistent top 9 player. Like I said, as far as his long-term value, this is a good bet, because to me, this is pretty decent third line money, but he has potential to be a top 6. And I don't know if we really know yet exactly long-term what Ridley Greig is. Kind of comparable to Shane Pinto in a sense that you've seen flashes of the offense, but you've also seen flashes of just good, responsible play and other parts of the game that look good. You don't know where they fit long-term. Will they be top 6 pieces, or will they be more, middle 6, third-line players who can move up on occasion, right? So either way, he's getting third-line money. So to me, this is a great bet on a former first-round pick who's developed nicely and contributes. He's one of those guys you never have to question the effort. He plays super hard. It can be a pain in the butt to play against. I mean, obviously, he's had some incidents that have kind of riled up the other team, like the slop shot into the empty net for the Leafs before. He is just a thorn in the side of the other team, and he's got the skill to boot. Lately, he's been playing with Brady Tkachuk, and that's been a bit of a menace, menace line, if you will. So I like the signing a lot. I think Greig's going to be a good player. Whether or not long-term he's a winger, the 3C, or what have you, we don't know where he's going to fit, but we know that offensively he's got the skill. It's still building, but defensively he's really responsible. He plays a lot in the PK. The PK in Ottawa does need work, but he's fairly new to it this year. But I personally think when it comes to what he's brought defensively and blocking shots and that extra effort and the grit, it's worth it. So I think this is a really good signing on a top young player for the Ottawa Senators. Now, of course, we saw them, unfortunately, lay an egg last night and have a really bad loss to the Buffalo Sabres after a 9-game road trip that spanned over several weeks with a little bit of a Christmas break in there because of the Ottawa region hosting the World Juniors. They had to be away from their home rink for a long time. And they came back, and this is not unusual for a team after a long road trip to come home and have a letdown game. And this was like a trap game. It's a bottom Eastern team that you should absolutely be able to beat. It's a team that's in your conference, in your division, that you need to beat, and you play like crap and you lay an egg. Now, in all, the first period actually was pretty good. They had a couple of bad breaks. Both ended up in the net. 2-0 Sabres, and then from there, just at the second period, you thought maybe they'll come out and find their legs and create more, and it never happened. So they dropped that one and get shut out by the lowly Sabres, and it's got to be a wake-up call. But the things did get rough towards the end, which resulted in Nick Cousins ended up getting a fine for elbowing against, I believe it was Gilbert on the Sabres. So Nick Cousins gets a fine, a little over $2,000. Really not a big deal. There was some other things that happened against the Sens in that game that went completely uncalled. So I'm a little bit surprised we're seeing a fine here for Cousins. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. And the injuries continued to mount for them. They lost fourth liner Noah Gregor last night. Gregor ended up going awkwardly with decent speed into the boards, went in feet first. Don't know the exact injury at this point, but we know obviously he did get up and managed to get off the ice himself, but then needed help getting down to tunnel, get evaluated, didn't come back. And Travis Green said today that he was going to be out a while. Green really doesn't like to give a lot of details on injuries. I know he says he's not withholding, but sometimes I just think he doesn't know what to say. Some injuries, it's hard to predict. So Gregor out a while. That joins a list of, they got some blue line injuries right now with Travis Hamonic and Jacob Bernard-Docker. Both of those guys are going to be out a while. Hamonic was going to be, probably close to a month. Bernard-Docker is probably looking at 6-7 weeks, and those are fairly fresh injuries, so they're not going to be back anytime soon. Then, of course, up front, you've also got Michael Amadio, who was dealing with a concussion, and then you've got David Perron, who had a lot of stuff going on this year. Lately, it's a back issue. Now, Amadio and Perron have both been skating, and we get another update today from Coach Green saying that they are getting closer. They have a back-to-back this weekend between Pittsburgh and Dallas, and they're not expected to play in those games. But I would think that because they've been skating with the team for the better part of a week, really, because even before the last road game in Detroit, they had a few days where they were able to go home since they were so close to Detroit and geographically, and they had a 3-day break, so they went home for like 2 days. And to be honest, they had some skates there, and we saw Amadio and Perron join them then, and then they've joined them again. I would think that they're close enough that it wouldn't be shocking to see them maybe play next week, but they definitely have a few more games to go before they get back in the mix. So, that joins, like I said, you got 2 defensemen out. You've got 3 forwards now. They had to recall Zach McEwen. They also recalled Matthew Highmore. They've had Cole Reinhardt on recall. For the most part, they called up Jan Unique. He got 1 game in. Not sure why he got sent back so quickly because I thought he played well. But the big injury is Linus Ullmark, of course, and we did get a bit of an update from Travis Green on him today as well. He said that Linus, of course, dealing with a back injury, it can be delicate, and from day to day, they don't almost know really what to say. They don't really know exactly. They called him week to week just because it's kind of hard to put down a timeline. He said with Linus, we're not withholding information. There just hasn't been a lot to say. But apparently, Ullmark did skate this morning on his own, not with the team. He wasn't on the ice for practice. That was Forsberg and Marilainen. That will continue. But Ullmark did skate. So, again, hopefully he's not out too long. But to be honest and fair, lately, it's not the goaltending that's been the problem. Now, you can look at the score sheet last night and be like, yeah, Forsberg let in 4. Was he great? No. But was he terrible either? Not really. But the bigger part of the problem in the last handful of games is their lack of offense. The offense is dried up, especially at even strength. So I'm not sure what they got to do. They have all kinds of offensive weapons, and it's just not good. You see this sometimes in teams where they have dry spells where all these players seem to end up in little mini slumps kind of all together here. So the scoring needs to get better. They need to find a way to kind of regroup and generate more offensively. And then goaltending can be the bigger issue. I mean, obviously, down the road, by the time they find their scoring, if the goaltending gets sorted out, Forsberg against Detroit, I thought was really, really good. Had a terrific bounce back game for him. Got them to at least get to overtime, so they got a point out of that one. Unfortunately, last night in Buffalo or against Buffalo, they didn't. But, it wouldn't have mattered if they couldn't score. So they've got multiple things that they're dealing with. Lack of depth on defense, goaltending, injuries, and then the big boys, which they rely on a lot up front, are all kind of dry right now. So lots of things happening in Ottawa. I think they are feeling the pressure of the wild card spot slipping away. What they need to realize is there's lots of runway left. They're still very much in the race, and they just need to buckle down and cool it and get back on track. But maybe we'll see Steve Staios make a move besides the Greig signing. Maybe we see a small trade to get a little bit of an infusion or something. I mean, they could certainly, stand to do that. There's been rumors that they're looking, nothing substantial for trades, but there's been some speculation that we could see whether it's a backup goaltending upgrade or whether it's a depth defenseman coming in that can take the pressure off the young guys they have on call up right now, or whether or not it's a forward that can jump in and provide a little bit of secondary scoring on your third or fourth line. Something has to give just to give them a little bit of a jolt. But what that is, we'll have to wait to be seen. So let me know your thoughts on all of today's news on the Ottawa Senators down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.